Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel for yet another Midnight Mass interview. I've got Annabeth Gish here, who I'm very excited to talk about, but everyone should be warned. This is like a full spoiler conversation. If you have not watched the entirety of Midnight Mass, please push pause, go binge it on Netflix, and then come back to this conversation. That's your one and only spoiler warning.
Yeah,
I am so excited we get to talk again.
me too. Me too.
There is a lot to cover here. And
Yeah.
I warned you, I have like some obnoxiously specific questions right now, but I'm going to start with maybe something a little broader here. So, on Crockett Island, it seems like it might be a difficult place for someone of science to live. So, before the events of the series, how do you imagine that Sarah just, kept herself busy and even sane during the quieter days where work wasn't as busy for her?
That's a great question. I think Dr. Sarah Gunning, who also identifies as gay, she has kind of always been an outsider on the island, even when she was growing up. She makes reference to it also when she says that priest, the father, was always looking at me like he knew. So she's always felt an outsider. I think she left and went away to college, medical school, ASAP, and didn't spend much time on the island. She was on that ferry a lot, I presume. And then when her mom started getting her dementia, she came back to take care of her because, her mom is her love line.
So I was wondering about that with medical school, and also because there's such a heavy emphasis on Erin and Riley's time off island. Do you think she went to medical school with no intention of coming back to be the Crockett doctor?
Yes, correct. I don't think she had the intention of coming back to be the Dr. Gunning on Crockett Island. No, but I think that because she is a helpful person, she wanted to. It was a time to help her mom and also be there for others.
All right, let's finally talk about working with Alex Esso now, which I'm so excited. I was trying to steer clear of it during the main junket, but I don't have to anymore.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about honing that dynamic, making it a believable mother daughter dynamic, even though Alex is so young and playing a role that is far older than she is?
Yes, yes. Well, to Alex's credit, to Mike's credit, to the special effect makeup credit, she spent a lot of time with prosthetics, and that is not an easy thing to do. But also to get your voice right and your body mannerisms and the walking and I think she does a great job because it's almost, I mean, you can answer this more, but I think it's quite a surprise her how she changes, and blooms back into youth. Um, for me, I've known Alex, and it was just such an easy pleasure to work with her. She's smart. She gets it. She and I have the same sensibility. Like not nothing. We're more subtle than big, and just want to be truthful. So it was a pleasure and wild to watch her get younger.
Great, great success in that department. So you've got that element of the relationship. And I was also wondering a little bit about George. What was Sarah's relationship like with her father figure? Was it a traditional father daughter type connection that they had when she was growing up?
I think the backstory was that yes, he was a loving, kind man. Probably not the dynamic father that she would have hoped for. Progressive, right? The island itself is very evangelical, um, faith based. But I think she grew up happy, right? I think she had a happy, solid. Her mother loved her, and then she was able to get the heck out of Dodge.
I was busy examining every single piece of set dressing in her house, and some of those photos that are on the wall say exactly what you just described.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And again, I have to say, the production design on Haunt always on Mike's stuff, but this one in particular, Midnight Mass, it's so detailed and it is so rich, and I think is a character in itself because everything's so worn in and weathered. And oh my gosh, we would walk on our sets, and in fact, in our house set, we had this great old record player with, we'd kind of sit around and like just be nostalgic about all the albums we remembered.
I have another I don't know if this is considered set dressing, and I also don't know if you have the answer to this, but it's something we see out the window of Sarah's house in particular most often. Whose golf cart is that?
I don't know. I haven't noticed it. Good eye.
This is only on like second and third watch when I'm picking
Yes.
apart details, but that there is a golf cart that's just sitting outside of her window.
Does anyone ever use it?
I don't know.
How weird. I hope it's not one of those like Starbucks cup Game of Thrones where
Yeah,
it was
exactly. I was wondering. I feel like that wasn't going to be, and it looks like it has like tools on it.
yeah.
So I
Well,
feel like someone is using it with purpose on Crockett.
yes, yes. Maybe it was Matt Bidell's, like his character.
Would
Yes.
100% believe that.
Right.
All right, let's talk a little bit about her relationship with John growing up, or maybe lack thereof. What do you think she was thinking of him? I mean, obviously, when she did not know that he was her father, and also what was her relationship with the church growing up too?
Well, I think we find a lot of information about Sarah in her determination to stick with science, right? Science explains all, and she needs to find a reason to explain things through science or medicine. And and therefore, I think that she probably is an atheist. I think that she did not feel welcome in the church, felt like an outsider. Um, but again, not with a kind of evil mindedness, I think, and her relationship with John. I think someone asked me recently if I thought that maybe she kind of always knew he was her father. And I said, no, no, I don't think she ever knew. I think that was a deeply buried secret. And they did everything to hide it, but which makes it all the more tragic when he comes back and you realize it's this desperately sad love story. And they could have anything she thought was judgment or hatred coming from him as a priest was really unrequited love for his daughter. It's quite profound.
I feel like I'm jumping all around here, but you just brought up that she is driven by the science and she's very fact driven as well. But there's one particular line where she deviates from that I absolutely love and was just wondering what it was like nailing that line. It's when she's having that conversation with Erin about the kids getting to the canoe, and she has like a moment to think about it when they're wondering if they got there, and then she just decided that they did. There's no evidence to prove that they did, but she decides right there and then, despite facts, that
Yes.
they did. So what was the motivation behind that particular line?
I think that was her exactly sort of her as tangential as she can get to a spiritual place. That was it. She had to have hope. She had to have hope for humanity outside the events that were happening, scientifically in front of her, that everything burning down. She had to believe. Otherwise, her sense of purpose would have been compromised. So, it is one of the things that Mike does so brilliantly is he weaves in this is not a nihilistic show. It really is about deep love and deep faith and deep hope for goodness.
I love those qualities about it. All right, let's go to another line here. Fucking bonkers. So I'm watching that conversation play out, and it feels like that conversation could have ended a beat sooner, but then we get that line, and I'm super glad that it didn't end sooner. So was that always scripted, or is that something that just happened on the spot?
Oh no, it was scripted. It was scripted, and I took great pleasure in saying it, especially after Mike. They throw these things at me like Ignaz Semmelweis, who is the researcher who for hand washing, and then erythropoietic protoporphyria, which I had to say, and which isn't on camera now. It's like which I can't believe. I'm so pissed, but that's a real thing, erythropoietic protoporphyria. So it was a pleasure to say fucking bonkers.
Speaking of those bigger speeches, Well, what is the key to stepping into a moment where it's so dialogue heavy for you? It's like, for someone out there who's about to do their very first monologue on set, what piece of advice would you give them for nailing things like that?
Mm. Well, it's always such a pleasure to work with a filmmaker who luxuriates in his characters being allowed to speak. Because sometimes it's just so pithy otherwise. So it's for me. I always approach a monologue of such stature with uh, tremendous excitement, a little bit of trepidation, because you want to nail it. And so then for me, that just means preparation, like study, study, study. I mean, I had my sons help me, like they all know those monologues and by heart still, because I had to just say them. And again, they're a little bit different because it was sort of scientific exposition. It's not just saying how you feel, riding that emotional current, but it took a lot of preparation, and then the grace of working with Kate and Alex, who listened, who really you could feel when your fellow actors are investing in what you are saying and hearing rather than just like, okay, your line, your line, your line, my line.
I
you know,
love hearing about the value of a good scene partner in that respect
oh,
because I don't think it's talked about nearly enough.
no, listening is an amazing asset.
I also never fully realized how unique everyone's tactics are for learning their lines. So is there anything, kind of out there that you do in order to memorize all of that stuff?
I have lots of little things. First of all, I'm definitely a tactile person. I need to have my pages. It can't be, I don't memorize well from a screen. I have to highlight. Sometimes I'll rewrite them in my own language. And sometimes I will record the whole scene, including other people's dialogue. Um, so then I can just, like, if I'm going for a run, I can just get the rhythm of the words in the scene in my psyche somehow. All sorts of little tricks.
Having recorded some other characters' dialogue, is there any dialogue that wasn't your own that really spoke to you that would make you think, "If I could swap roles with anybody in the Midnight Mass ensemble, I would pick that
Oh
role"?
God. Well, listen, it's such a pleasure because everybody kind of gets their piece in this, whether it's Robert Longstreet or Anara playing Lisa. She has this beautiful monologue. Um, Kate Siegel's monologue at the end of the show, I think, is one of those. She and Zach both have these beautiful sort of, they're, to me, because they're science, they're almost more spiritual than just religious. Very eternal language, and it's what I believe ultimately and hope for. So killer monologues.
I have to ask about working with Hamish because it doesn't matter how many things I see him in, he just like blows me away every time. And I can't imagine what it must have been like being on set and listening to him in particular delivered speeches like that. So, what is it like just sitting in the church observing him command a room to such an extent?
Mhm. uh, he is a magnificent talent. His stature alone, he's tall and dark and handsome, and his vocal tone itself is just so resonant. It gives you chills just to listen to him. It's a marvel. We all kind of, again, to that point, we all had to listen to him and hold space for him to do these massive, massive chunks of dialogue. Um, but it was just lovely to watch, and he's also a hoot off. He's not like so serious. Like he's he can be pretty goofy.
I have gotten a taste of that now, and after seeing 2 things now where he is just so incredibly intense back to back this year, it was nice to actually get to chat with him about this and see a little bit of that side as well.
He has a lot of lightness and levity. This is for sure.
Alright, from lightness to levity to the massacre in the show now.
Yes.
What was the buildup to filming that particular sequence like on set for all of you? What was the whole company just like buzzing with anticipation? Were nerves sky high? What was it like leading up to that?
Yes, to both of those questions. I think it was at the end of our shoot, so we had all grown comfortable now with the protocols and everything, and yet we knew that they were saving this big church sequence with however many extras and all of us in one room with lots of fluids and all of the things that the government was not advising to do during a pandemic. And I think we'd all worked in different pieces so much that we were really excited to come together in the church, and in the green room offset because we just had so much fun. But yes, again, it was mayhem. It was very orchestrated, choreographed, controlled mayhem, but it was mayhem and lots of moving parts, and you had to pay attention, and you didn't want to get hurt, and there was, but it was violent and it was crazy because you're looking at this set and there's blood everywhere, you know.
To break that down a little bit here, let's go twofold question on this one. First, of everything that happens in that particular sequence, what was the beat that was the toughest to nail or to get right, whether it was because of blocking or some of that blood, anything at all?
Well, for me, it was getting shot.
Fair.
Yes, because you're squibbed and it's a stunt and a special effect or whatnot. And I don't know. It's just a hard thing to fake, you know. So so that for me was hard. But and then just the emotional moment of realizing, that he's my father and rejecting his offering of blood, which I think is also such a profound statement. I mean, Sarah does not change her conviction at all. I don't know that I would have done that. I as Annabeth, I might have chosen to drink everlasting life.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating beat because literally everything she does in the show leads up to her making that decision. But you've got to account for human fallibility as well. And someone might say they're not going to drink the blood, but in a moment where they're on the brink of death, I
On the
feel like
brink,
many would cave.
yeah, and on the brink of death, and then also on the brink of realizing this mother and father figure that you never knew or had as such. That's quite intoxicating, I would think.
I have another question about that. But first, the second part of my massacre question, is there
Yes.
any particular element of, like, I guess the movie magic of it all that had you standing there in the middle of shooting a particular scene and just saying to yourself, I can't believe that this is what it takes to make it look like that on screen?
Oh gosh. Well, there was one moment I think that happens all the time. There is just a complete, like, you see how many people behind the scenes it takes to light candles and fill glasses, and it's such a like machine. Um, but there's a shot in particular when the dark angel creature arrives into the church before the massacre actually, and they have this massive crane shot, and it's just like this, you feel the kinetic energy of the cinematography, and that's like one of those moments where you're like, oh, we're making some cool shit.
What did you guys casually call it on set? Because in talking about the show with friends, like some say angel, some say demon, some do a combination. I don't even know anymore.
Is it an angel? Is it a demon? Is it a vampire? It's all of those things. It's a creature of Mike Flanagan's imagination.
Was it a conscious choice to, like, I guess this is more of a Mike question, but to never utter the word vampire in the show?
I would guess that was a very conscious decision. Knowing Mike, everything is very, very plotted.
Here's another very specific question about that. There is one point where Sarah connects EEP to maybe fueling a certain myth. Is she referring to like the myths that we have created about vampires? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You get the one and only reference to vampires.
I know. And I love that you are only saying EEP instead of erythropoietic.
Not even gonna try. Not even gonna try.
Right.
All right. My last question for you is a big one. I was wondering what you think that Sarah's last words might have been if she had had the chance to utter something. Because in that moment, there's something about, the pacing and the way that it's shot that was making me think maybe she's going to turn to John and she's going to say something like no, but she doesn't. And then I just got obsessed with what she might have said, given that in the scene before, she agrees with him and says that she would have liked to have known him better, but then refuses the blood.
Yes, which again, I have such admiration for her, because I think even so, at the end of our life, we probably all just really want love. So even though she says no to the everlasting life, I think she would have said, I love you, to her mom and her dad, or something like that, that's my sentimental side.
That's how I read it. I'm glad now it just, it further validates it because you said it, and it also fills my heart, which with a show that ends the way it does, it's incredible that it manages to be heartening in the end and inspiring.
No, isn't it though? It gives me chills, because and it really is that kind of, I know everyone is urging people to watch the entirety of the show, which you must, because the ride itself it's the journey, it's not just the destination. But once you end at the end, then it's like, wow, holy
Yeah.
shit.
Does not surprise me with a cast like yours and someone like Mike at the helm. I've seen him do it time and time again. I should never be surprised, but this was an ambitious show, and I'm very, very impressed by how well you all pull it off.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, I'm honored to be a part of it.
I must thank you for spending some time with us, and thank you for answering my super detailed spoiler questions here. I appreciate it.
I love it. I love it. Let them rip.
Yeah, huge congratulations, and thanks again for chatting with us.
Thank you.